lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and he missed the complete. He's crazy.
Overside Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Hello everyone and welcome to the south side of the Nurburgring, where we are getting set to go racing for 45 minutes here in Western Germany. This is week 5 of iRacing's IMSA Sportscar Championship, and we're about to watch the top split do battle for the 5th round of the HPP Simulation Sportscar Challenge live on the global SimRacing channel. Hi everyone, I'm Samuel Ryman, and with me in the booth tonight is Sean Ambrose, who will be covering the Daytona Prototype and GT3 classes, as well as Justin Prince, who will bring us all the action in the GTE class. Behind the scenes we have our director Amjad Yamin doing all the button pushing, and he's using camera sets provided by the one and only Dougie Beard. Justin, as we approach the halfway point of the season, we're coming off of 2 back-to-back windy tracks. Now, however, we're back at a state-of-the-art Grand Prix facility with a lot of racing history, even if it is just a bit to the north of us.
Yes, right now indeed, because as you mentioned, this track is home to a 12.93 mile, 154 turn circuit that has been home to racing since 1927. That is just north to where we are today. That track was so safe that Jackie Stewart once nicknamed the track the Green Hell in the late 1960s. For safety reasons, we're here at today's race, which was built in 1984, the Grand Prix Strucka, which is, at the time, it met the highest safety standards. This circuit is 3.2 miles and 16 turns, and is a more slower and technical course than what we've seen at Sonoma and at Mosport the past couple of weeks. We'll see some very tight turns, some very hard braking, and it's going to be a challenging one for the drivers here for this 45-minute race. Of course, they have 8 minutes to qualify in 2 laps overall, but to help explain what to expect here from Nurburgring today, let's head to your GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Amjad Yamin of the GSRC BMW, so let's do a lap around the Nürburgring. You'll see a lot of pass attempts into turn 1, but this corner is so sharp that it's easy to lose track of the line your opponent is taking. Take caution when you try to pull an over-under. From there, you head into the Mercedes Arena, which is the most technical portion of the track. These next few corners are all going to be slow and come up without much break in between. Figuring out the correct line can be difficult, and the one positive to take out of this is that it'll allow you to catch the slower drivers who haven't sussed out its secrets. Be sure to use as much runoff as allowed, since much of the speed can come from there. After that, you head towards Valvoline, which is going to be a medium-speed downhill left-hander. For me, it always feels like I enter too slow, but don't be fooled, as it can be easy to get over-ambitious. Try to hold left even on the exit, because it'll give you a wider entry into Ford. The reason you want to sacrifice the first part for the second one is we're going to continue to plunge downhill and keep picking up speed. This leads us into the heavy braking of Dunlop, where anxious drivers might be looking for a pass. So obviously, the best way to defend will be to get a good run down here. The heavy banking can make outside passes possible, but it's still extremely difficult to pull off. Now we're on to the back half of the course, which starts with a quick left-right flick. Feather the throttle and try to straight line them as much as you can. Don't waste time in recovering and bring the car to the right for turn 11. This feeds you directly into 12, which is going to be critical to your lap time. Make it one smooth flowing motion and set yourself up for a good exit. You're going to be on the gas for a little while, and any hesitation could make you vulnerable to the car behind. Now, the Vidal chicane coming up is sharper in other layouts, but this one takes the quick version. That makes it a lot tougher to outbrake your opponent. Don't be surprised to see a too wide attempt at some point in the race, but I can't promise that it'll end well. After that, all that's left is the final hairpin, so late apex that sucker and launch it onto the pit straight. Though we're racing in the shadow of the Nords, this place certainly has its fair share of difficulty, so treat it with respect. And with that, we now finish our lap around the Nürburgring.
So as you saw there, a little bit smaller than the Nordschleife, but it just as well has as many interesting turns out there, and the drivers are going to be able to grip to those turns quite well today with a track temperature of just 74 degrees. So kind of cool out there, Sean, but one thing that's not really cool, even though we're just 4 rounds into the championship, is the point standings.
It's hot. It's smoking white hot. Let's look at that now. Let's look at the prototypes first here and see where we're at. Gabriel Roos right now sits on top in those Chevrolet Corvette C7 Daytona prototypes. Sam Fitzpatrick. Fitzy, 5 points back. Craig Labate, just 12 points back. The top 3 really put a blanket over it. They're really, really close. Now, Michael Avotka, he's run well, but still back there in 4th place. David Weiss, a little bit further back in 5th, but all in striking distance here. Nobody's running away from each other here yet as we approach the halfway point of this season. Guys, let's look at the GTE standings now. And we find Elliot Biddle up top, 88 points. Ronaldo Lerna has been very good and finds himself only 2 points behind in 2nd. Benjamin Perez tied with Brian Sutton. They're in 4th. Then you got to look a ways back there to Clark Archer, who is 20 points off of 1st place. Now, he's got a little bit of work to do. But again, Battle Air and GT, pretty close. They're amongst the top 5. Let's look at the final standings here for GT3 here in the season. And right now, CM Skinner is in command. Yavi Utreres, well, he's not doing too bad. He's in 2nd. Now, Dexter Castro needs a much better run this week. If he wants to climb back up the ladder, he sits 25 points out of 1st right now in 3rd. Cameron Barry, again, can serve. That's another driver can serve with a really good finish tonight. He's in 4th right now. And then Mirko Totonic, 41 points back there in 5th. A win would be necessary. He's got to pick at least one of those up here. And I don't know, haven't looked at everybody yet, but if he's here, and I don't see him here initially, that's going to be a big hit here to him tonight. But guys, it's going to be time to race here in about 3 minutes, and qualifying laps being laid down right now. It's going to be a fun one today.
Every single class is currently qualifying at the same time. The way they're able to do that is they basically all have their own mini session going on, so there are no other cars around them. So we have a field here today in the top split currently going on right now of 37 cars, and as always, Justin, a lot of GTEs out there.
Yes, you mentioned that, a heck of a lot of GTEs today. In fact, around the 20 plus range today in that class. So you're going to have a lot of cars in that. You have 8 overall in DPs and 8 GT3s. So the GTEs are going to have a handful, I think, because that is a very, very, very large field. You're going to have all those cars navigate through the slower cars, and the DPs navigate through them as well. So it could be very chaotic in some points of this race, especially at the start, with all these GTEs. But again, it's a top split race, so it's something to expect, as right now we are seeing some good times from that group right now. The top 5, about 7/10 separate the 5 of them.
So we're working the final couple of minutes of qualifying right now, and once again, this is an official iRacing event that's going on. It's the top split of the official iRacing IMSA Sportscar Championship. However, this race at this time of day on Friday nights on the eastern coast in America is being sponsored by the HPP Simulation guys. So it's HPP Simulation Sportscar Challenge. Those are the championships we're going to see fighting in all 3 of our classes. And so until this session loads, even though there's some big names that come each week, until the session loads, the drivers don't actually know who they're going to be racing against, Sean. But like we said, we've got some big names here that we've been familiar with in past races.
Yes, we do. And another important thing to talk about real quick is the fact that a pit stop will play a factor in this 45-minute event this evening. You will need at least one stop to get this race done because, well, there is limited fuel in these tanks. And that does guarantee at least one stop. That will be a factor here. The pit lane, the getting in not so bad. Getting out, not a lot of fun with traffic coming hot down that straightaway off your shoulder to the left. Will be interesting to see how the cars merge back into traffic going down into the hairpin of turn 1.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing I'm interested to see. Very tight first couple of corners here at the Nurburgring GP course, and so hopefully they'll all make it through cleanly, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some fenders banning. Now you see there in the top left corner, time is up for qualifying, so let's run through our grid, beginning with the Daytona prototypes, and on pole position is Michael Evdoku, who comes into this round 4th in the points. He takes it ahead of the winner of the last race, Luis Paulo Gallen. Clint Shane Smith will start in 3rd place alongside Christopher Hendrick, and then we have Carlo Labate and David Weiss on row 3 in DPs. Sam Fitzpatrick and Justin Weaver round out the 8-car DP field. Justin?
And with the GTEs, Pascal Kirchner starts off the grid alongside Wayne C. Burke, who both of them had good times in the 148. In the second row is Brian Sutton alongside Miguel Vigo. Braden Swan will start alongside Alejandro Bentos, while Daniel Kowalski, starts with Carlos Villa. Continuing with this very large field, right on behind them will be Bobon Matic, along with Andrew Brown. Dylan Ecclestone, one of the first times he's been in this split for the races for the HP Simulation Challenge, PP Simulation Challenge, starts alongside Luis Mercado. Eric Biggs starts with T. Darrell Worthington, Matthew Forden, and Andrew Stokes. And the last two to record times are Mark Swinnow and Robert Obortha. The cars that did not record times were Brendan Felipe, Chris Braddock, and Raymond Brown. Sean?
All right, let's knock out the GT3. Starting first in class, Rock Garcia. And right next to him is going to be Dion Fialo. Reds Brake going to start in 3rd. Jesse Stevens will be 4th, the Georgia driver. Paul Darling starting 5th tonight. Andy Gooderson starting 6th. Dexter Castro will start 7th. And Luis Rodriguez will round out the 8-car field. Got a couple of pros in this split here in the GT3 class. Should be interesting to see what Renz Brinkman and Luis Rodriguez have for the rest of the field. It's a very, very tough split, guys. Actually, a 4,316 the strength of field in the GT3 class. Some dudes hanging out over there, man.
Alright, and now you see the field is rolling off. We're only a few turns away from the start-finish line, and to build on Sean's point there about the strength of a GT3 field, you saw during our qualifying graphic of how many of those actually out-qualified the tail-end GTE cars, although I believe they're all starting their class. And also, because this is an official iRacing race, the number 1 car is a driver with the highest I rating all the way back to the number... the cars in the 30s are the ones with the low I ratings, the highest ones in GT3. Field coming through, the last turn, Michael Evdoka already on the loud pedal, green flag is in the air, we are racing for the 5th week of the HPP Simulation Sportscar Challenge, and Evdoka leading them away. He's already got a nice break over Luis Paulo Gallen, and then they're side by side for 3rd, with Clint Shane Smith edging them out. And now we go to GTs with Justin.
Yes, and Kirchner starting them off very well, heading into the very tight first corner. Cars are already bringing up some tire smoke and leaving marks on the track as it's a clean start. Too wide in the back of the field right now for the GTEs as the GT3s are coming out of 1 as well. Sean?
Sean.
All right, got Eric Biggs actually off course right in front of the GT3s as they came by. But it's Rock Garcia that gets off to the great start with Dion Fialo right behind him. Renz Brakeman hanging on the 3rd. They're all still shuffling line astern right now as they head on through the course.
Alright, we mentioned the 37-car field. A couple of cars went off in the first turn, but for the most part it was a clean start. 36 cars took a green flag. Brendan Philippe his Ferrari is still sitting in the pits, so unfortunately, now it's finally rolling, but he's already half lap down. Meanwhile, back up at the overall lead, Michael Evdoka continues to lead ahead of Luis Paulo Gallen. A rather clean start in the DP field, but I have a feeling, Justin, a lot of the action is going to be in our biggest field, and that's GTE.
I think so too, because it is a huge field for today, and it's, of course, it's a very tight course, and cars are going to be fighting to make passes a lot. You already have a couple GTEs struggling a little bit. One of them, as mentioned, Luis Mercado, who has been getting loose out of some of these turns already. So you already have some cars getting past in the GTEs by GT3s right now. So it's a tight course. You got to hit your rhythms. And it's also a point where you got to make sure you hit the brakes, because if you don't hit the brakes, you're going to be in the gravel or hitting a car in front of you.
Yeah, Sean, that seems to be a problem with our GT3 field. They're being so strong is that a lot of those are running right up the back of the GTE field.
Yeah, and GT3 Luis Rodriguez just comes in the pit. Oh, trouble down at turn 1 already. A couple cars involved there, guys. One of them was Chris Braddock. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but there's GT3 traffic getting through here. Oh, it's Robert O'Brother there. It looks like really missed the braking zone there and just plows into the car of Chris Braddock. Ouch.
And toward the front of the field, we had a bit of contact in turn 2 with Christopher Hendrick, who was dropped from 4th to 5th. He's lost that spot to Sam Fitzpatrick, but the front end of his GP does not look as good as what it did at the start of the race. That's because he got into the back of Fitzpatrick as they came out of turn 2.
Now our GT3 leader, Rock Garcia, right now, guys, he's off to a great start, but he's had to tangle with quite a bit of GTE traffic right now. Raymond Brown hot on his tail, wanting to get around, and Rock Garcia trying to run his race and defend against Dion Fiallo, who's making up really a lot of ground right now because Rock's having a fight with that GTE.
Yeah, the GTs are fighting all over the track, really, even at the front, because Wayne Broke just went through the gravel for part of the turn. A lot of drivers already kicking up some gravel, and as you've seen, that turn 1 is the most dangerous, really, because if they don't hit the braking marks right as you're seeing them coming to 1, then you're going to be flying into the car in front of you. That is going to be the main thing to watch all day, and the main position where a lot of drivers will lose their spots, including guys like Brian Sutton, as you're seeing here.
Yeah, I'm not too pleased with the amount of times on my screen that it's flashing up that drivers are running off track. It seems to be quite excessive in the early stages. Let's not forget there is a 17-point incident limit in iRacing official series races such as this one. So these drivers are going to want to keep it on the course today if they want to iRacing to let them finish a race.
Pardon me there, I apologize for cutting you off there, but one of those points you just mentioned, turn 1 again, Robert Aborta was turned around again, the GTEs, this time around by a GT3. So that is going to be one of the main things, like I mentioned. You already see he has a tiny bit of damage from turning around for the second time already. But Sean, we'll get back to you with those DPs.
Actually, I was picking up the battle in the GT3 class. I'm sorry, Rock Garcia was really, as I mentioned before, was being held up by the GTE of Raymond Brown. Kind of backed off. He's let Dion Fiallo catch up to him now, and those two started to race a little bit more. But Eric Biggs still in that mix, another GTE car. It's a little bit faster. It's trying to make his way through. This again is a bit of a problem for these two as they continue to battle for that lead here in the GT3 class.
Yeah, and what you're seeing there is a battle going on, as Sean mentioned, with interclass traffic. Well, we've also been taking a look at the front of the field where Luis Paulo Gallen is not far behind Michael Evdoka for the overall lead. Now, I'm thinking maybe he just wants to bide his time there, but I don't think he can really afford to do that, because right now these two are in clean traffic, and if they catch lap traffic and lap car lets Evdoka by, knowing that he's the leader but holds up Gallen, then all of a sudden they get split apart. I have a feeling Gallen really needs to try and take advantage and take this overall lead while they have clean racetrack.
Where does he get him? That's the question. He's obviously setting him up now. Where is the great passing opportunity here? Sam, I got to think it's going to be right here after this right-hander. Boy, Gallon really struggled there, didn't he, Sam?
Yeah, it almost seemed like he lost enough time for it to be a slowdown, but I never really saw him run off course. I think he just, as you mentioned, made a big mistake, and that will finally let Evdoka to break away. But Justin, something Sean mentioned there is where do you make a pass? I'm surprised we haven't seen a whole lot of passing in this class, but if we have, it's been with these GTE battles, and a lot of them have been through drivers making mistakes.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the passes, like you said, have to come on drivers making mistakes, take advantage of the mistakes, while also hopefully not getting involved in said mistake. So that is one thing to watch as well. I feel some of these tight chicanes, like the Dunlap curve, is somewhere where I think you have to watch drivers, as well as down these long straightaways, using the pole and the toe to get behind cars for these passes. But right now, you're seeing guys like Carlos Villa, Wayne Burke, just dial it in right now and just getting it well. Like you've seen there, though, Miguel Vigo almost took advantage for a pass on a mistake, but of course, that is a tough turn to try and make a pass in a tough circuit, as this is, like we've said multiple times already, a very technical track, a very tight track, and a very wild track.
Yeah, Wayne Burke actually just lost second position to Brian Sutton, of course. And now it almost seems like he's having a couple bad laps where his momentum or something's distracting him or something, because, like you mentioned, he almost gave up another position to Miguel Vigo, almost lost 2 positions within 1 lap, really.
Well, that was partially because Wayne Burke got essentially, Brian Sutton took the turn a lap and a half ago, very tight into that first corner to get that pass. That is what a lot of drivers will have to do, while hoping they don't run over the cars on the left side of them. So it's about taking advantage of those opportunities all day long.
And one thing, as always, we have to keep an eye on in the DP classes, when the drivers get a little bit too aggressive with the curbs, it can cause some damage. I'm seeing a little bit of a dent to the left front fender of our overall leader, Michael Evdoka, and he lost half a second to Luis Paulo Gallen that time around. Gallen, who won the race last week, he is trying to go back to back here. He's just got to get by Evdoka. Meanwhile, Andrew Brown apologising and wondering if he was involved in a little incident back there.
Not sure, Sam. I didn't pick anything up on that. Although, yeah, actually,
yeah, he started this lap in 9th. He's dropped back to 12th, Sean.
Yeah, he spun. Nobody made contact with him. He just apologized for spinning out in front of a few guys there. But he gets his Ford GT back going again. I don't see any damage on the car. I think he'll be okay.
And that was in the Dunlop curve. In fact, as you mentioned there, one of those very tight turns. And it's, of course, you have to hit the brakes hard. Unfortunately, hit the brakes too hard in that situation.
Now, of course, these drivers have open setups, so that could be a matter of putting too much rear brake into the car.
I think a lot of drivers are trying to take advantage of that brake bias, because the thing is, if you have it too much on a higher number, you'll end up being too slow into the brakes, or not slowing down enough, I should say. The lower the number, the more braking, the more faster you brake, yes, but it's also going to be very hard to brake sometimes if you have it too much. Like, I believe the top number set was 53.5 for the GT3s, for example. So a lot of drivers taking advantage of the brake biases, and if I were them, making these adjustments as well as they go on, if they were one of the people running and struggling right now, because that is how you take advantage of these situations. You have to make the adjustments, and I think the brake bias is the first step.
Second driver into the pits, Robert O'Brotta. He's joined Chris Braddock. We saw his troubles earlier.
My spidey senses are tingling here. Rock Garcia still hanging on to this lead here in the GT3 class. The problem is again, still the traffic. It's Luis Mercado in the GTE. These slower GTEs right now have been a constant issue for our leaders, and you see him run right up there on Rock Garcia. Garcia driving just as hard as he can, but constantly having to avoid getting hit by somebody. And that's a tough thing to deal with in your mirror when you're constantly thinking about that. Dion Fialo has done a great job hanging in there. Go ahead.
Sean, our driver in 5th place in DP, Christopher Hendrick, saw the damage to his car early on. He ran off, he runs off again, and there was a train of DPs running from 5th back, 6th back to 8th that have now all gone by him. He just gives up a fight there. I think that damage on that number 24 machine is finally getting to him, and he drops back to 8th, while that 3-way battle for 6th moves up to a 3-way battle to 5th. Back to you, Sean.
That's all right, no problem. Action comes quickly here. Going, looking in on the DPs actually right now. Carlo Labate, Justin Weaver, and David Weiss all in a pretty spirited battle right here. These 4 locked up, all jockeying here to take down the 5th position. Weiss has got it. They all want it. Coming down the front straight now, down to the hairpin. This is where you get a chance to make a move.
This is really the biggest pack I see on the track right now, although it's been heating up a little bit. I'm seeing at the tail end of a GTE field, Justin, we got T. Darrell Worthington, Andrew Stokes, and Raymond Brown running virtually nose to tail.
Yes, that is a tight battle right now for position for their grouping, running overall in the early to mid-20s in the overall standings. You're seeing their car to the right, though, coming out of the grass as Alejandro Bentos, and Eric Briggs is going to have to check up big time to avoid that, as Bentos had spun out in Dunlap curve a few laps ago. Again, having trouble. We're going to have to see what happened with him once again. You can see there on the GSRC replay, he went around again and smacked into the tire walls, as he's going to let Briggs go right on by. But that battle right now is starting to get tight, and could get tighter as Matthew Forden is right in front of them. So it could turn into a 4-car battle soon.
And just after that, we had a bit of drama. One turn later, as Luis Masado, running in the Ferrari, spun, and then the driver 3rd in the GT3 class, Renz Brookman, got into him. Now, Brookman is continuing in his Mercedes, but he has a large punch in the nose. He remains in 3rd position.
See if we can get it on the replay. We're going to give it a shot.
Yeah, we are, because that is pretty significant with your GSRC replay. Mercado was struggling throughout much of the race. You can see Brockman, of course, he is sponsored by VRS, the Virtual Racing School, and one of the pro drivers in today's event. You're seeing here in his car, you can see dirt being kicked up, but it's a little bit further up, coming to the final corner. And you will see Mercado having the difficulties once we get to that final corner. You can see he's just trailing behind, and then you can see that's what happened right there. The back brakes just went around, and oh my goodness. That looked more than just a little damage on the front end. That was hard enough to lift the GTE off the ground.
Well, of course, even though they do have a scheduled pit stop, we don't have any free repairs in this series, to my knowledge, and so you'll have to get that repaired.
It was a battle for position. Not anymore. Paul Darling makes a mistake behind Jesse Stevens. I was watching that battle, and Jesse Paul makes a mistake here, chasing Jesse. We've got it on the replay for you. You're going to see Paul maybe just gets, the brake, maybe a little bit too much brake right there, and it snaps on him, doesn't hit anything. He's going to be okay, but man, that was a good battle between those two.
He retained 5th position, and now you see Andy Goodison right up behind him. Now, this speaks to just the quality of this field, I think, Justin. The fact that we see Paul Darling in other series be a front runner, and right now he's struggling to keep a car in the straight line while running back home 5th.
Well, two things, as one Sean mentioned, this is a very high strength of field race, and two, this is a very hard track, so it's not going to translate the skills you're seeing at some of the other tracks to here. You can see right now he was 6 seconds behind on the last lap compared to the cars around him in his class. So, of course, Darling, usually a front runner, struggling today a lot, but that's usually the case with a lot of drivers. I think he just has to continue with the rhythm right now and possibly even preserve the tires, because pit windows are starting to become a factor pretty soon, because these cars will be running about up to 25 laps overall on this track.
Oh, and Darlin's off again. There we go. Speaking about just how difficult this track is.
That time he makes contact, gets off the track. Boy, tough to get it back there. You know, right there, it's about a 4th gear chicane, actually. You hit that just right. He missed the entry on that a little bit, and unfortunately, you're going to see what happens here. Just gets too much of it. It grabs him over. It upsets the car. And he goes sliding off into that retaining wall there, and it's going to be damage for Paul Darling, and he's already taken it, guys, behind the wall. Another driver behind the wall is Robert O'Brother, who had trouble early. O'Brother also taking his car behind the wall for this race.
Yeah, both of them out. Meanwhile, one driver who's not out, even though we saw him have that big punch a while ago, is Renz Brookman, still running 3rd place in his Mercedes. But not only that, the number 1 on his car, he's proving why he has it right now, because even with that damage, he is running down Dion Fiallo for 2nd in class.
He is, Sam, and I've been keeping an eye on that too. Renz took damage last week on his Mercedes. Same damage, pretty much same place, and he was able to drive on with that and get a really a good result, obviously. So we'll see here. I think he can manage that. Maybe even get a little help when he's in the pit. But this race here in the GT3 class is going to be all about the pit stop, Sam. Probably in all 3 classes today. They are going to have to be flawless for them to get any advantage on their fellow drivers, because obviously not a lot of it being made up here on the track right now.
The pit stops and the traffic, because Michael Avdoka and Luis Paulo Gallen run as they have throughout most of the race, about a second apart, but now they are finally catching the tail end of the field, beginning with the GT3 car of Boban Matik, but then ahead of them they've got the GT3s of Andy Goodison, Dexter Castro, Renz Brookman, DL Fiallo, and the GT3 leader, Rock Garcia. So traffic is about to play a big factor, Justin.
Yeah, it is, because for all classes, really, you can see these DPs, for example, having to navigate through some of the GTEs right now. It's at that point, and oh my goodness, Gallen's around.
Keeps it in 2nd if he can keep it straight. Now, is he going to elect to come into the pits? Yes, very smart decision. We'll get a replay of the incident here. But he decides to pull it straight down pit road. He figured, hey, I've lost my momentum anyway. Might as well just pull it into the pits, get my scheduled stop out of the way.
And that was that 4th gear chicane that I talked about just a moment ago. It bites Gallen. He just gets too much curb there on the right. But, really fortunate there in front of the pit lane. He pedals it in and comes down there now. Again, these stops have got to be just flawless, guys.
And Avdoka is going to have to respond to this, I think, because I believe Gallen was faster, and if he gets out and doesn't have any traffic while Avdoka is working his way through these GT3 cars right now, then that could change the matter up front. And Sean, another thing that could change up front is in GT3 with Fiallo right ahead of Brookman now.
Yeah, this is... It's an exciting race to watch, actually. Fiallo has had a great drive today. These guys have managed the traffic very well, but, man, Brankman is just obviously a very skilled driver, able to wheel that damaged Merc around and still show the potential here to make a strong move. We're on board with him here. You see that the run he gets on Fiallo riding in his draft there, getting through a good grip here through the chicane. Wow. Oh, and he decides to come in. Oh, Renz makes a last-minute decision to come in.
Maybe get some repairs on the front end of a GT3. Meanwhile, haven't seen a whole lot of GTE cars pitting, Justin.
Yeah, not yet. Pretty soon you have to expect them to come in. They are on the higher end of the fuel limits for these races for the HPP Simulation Sports Car Challenge. But with some of the air cars going in from the GT3s and the DPs, I wouldn't be surprised to see them come in about 2 to 3 laps in that window soon, because we're already at 25 minutes almost. You got to get fuel soon, of course, to finish off, and hope that you saved your tires enough for the final run.
Sam Rens-Brinkman already out of his pit. Very, very quick stop for him. Only 11.6 seconds in the stall, 35.7 total time there on pit lane. A very, very tidy stop for him.
Well, Justin mentioned about the fuel being on the high end. You probably don't have to take a lot of it, and obviously a 45 minutes is a sprint race for these for these cars. Meanwhile, great battle going on between Dylan Eccleston and Andrew Brown for a top 10 position in GT3. Eccleston was able to hold on to it. Here they come down the front straight, Justin. Now this is one place where Brown could make a move, but he's not close enough.
Yeah, it's not close enough, maybe with the late braking, but of course that's very risky at a track like this into turn 1. You can see he's just trying to focus on getting back into Ecclestone's back bumper. Gets a good exit there and a good run going through the next chicanes. So Brown is working his way slowly but surely, but that's the better strategy to go with rather than trying to push through these corners. And one thing I like to note though, Carlos Vila did go in with a 9.1 already, and Eric Briggs is also in along with Boban Matic.
Yeah, Dion Fiallo also in. Remember, he was racing Rens Brookman for second place. Yeah, so let's see where they come out in relation to each other, Sean.
Well, Rens is coming around turn 16 now, around Coca-Cola, up across the start-finish line. Fiallo now coming off out of his stop. Is he going to beat him out here? Coming out together. He's going to get by Fiallo, but it's going to be really close. Fiallo going to charge down into turn 1. Hooks that hairpin really, really well. Gets a good run off. And I would say this battle is still very much on, Sam.
Yeah, GP course, a GP pass, with Brookman making the pass work in around the pit stops. Even with the front nose damage, though, I don't think you get away with that in F1.
No, I don't think you would. All right, so that leaves it to Rock Garcia and Dexter Castro. Now, Garcia's got about a 14.5-second advantage on Dexter Castro. And those two, as I said, still need to pit. But now Castro may have enough... boy, I don't know. That's going to be close between him and Rens-Brinkman. I don't think the Delta's going to help him there. Castro, when he goes in for that pit, he may slot back out to third. Probably fourth or fifth, though. We'll see.
And this is a good run for Castro too, because he said this is not one of his favorite tracks, of course. A very tough track for GT3, so this is a very good run for him for a guy who does not like the track.
Well, that pit stop going to be critical for Castro. I'm pretty sure he won't be taking any tires. It'll be all about as little fuel as he needs to get it done. We have hit we're just past the halfway point right now. Eric Biggs getting by Castro here on screen in that GTE, that Ford GT. And oh, in the picture is the Corvette of David Weiss. Weiss trying to get it done there from the outside. He does. Weiss sitting fourth in the DPs right now. 8 seconds behind Carlo Labate.
Got a sizable gap overall and trying to work through some of the traffic. So he's got a good run going in that DP right now. So a lot of good action overall as the action continues, as Brian Sutton makes a move on Jesse Stevens, for example, from the GT3. So a lot of traffic all over the course to navigate through. Pasco Krishner right now a 7-second gap on Sutton. The question is, can he hold on to the gap? Because that is a huge gap, yes, but how has he been conserving his tires? We'll have to see on this final run, because you will definitely not be taking tires in this situation.
Yeah, pit road has kind of calmed down now, and Justin mentioned the fact that some drivers may be going on the strategy. We may have to wait until maybe even less than 10 minutes left to go in this race to really see how the positions are going to pan out.
Yeah, because I'm going to be honest with you, Sam. I'm watching Rock Garcia here going around for another lap here in the GT3 class. He doesn't look to be letting up anytime soon. He's trying to put as much distance between him and Dexter Castro as he can right now. He's doing a little bit more every lap. Still running strong. Rock Garcia, your leader in the GT3 class.
Meanwhile, been keeping an eye on our retirements list. I don't really think it's increased a whole lot. It's been a rather calm race right now, but I know I'm speaking too soon there, because usually these things, the drama really picks up in the closing stages as the time counts down and the drivers get more desperate.
Well, this is really the calm before the storm with the race, of course, because there's still a fair amount of time, 17 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock, to make moves, like, especially if you're Brian Sutton, for example, on Pascal Kirchner. I would be basically saying, he's got to make his move soon. As soon as he gets out of the pits, start pushing the car a little bit without overwearing those tires, because it could become to the point where the gap is too much. But like I said, the calm before the storm, as Alejandro Bentos is around in the final corner.
This isn't good. He's right in a blind spot. Whoa, yeah. Hendricks goes by, and a lot. So, was Swain involved too? Did he get into him?
Different incident, as he went around and hit the tire wall.
Guys, I think what happened when a lot of people coming through the final turn saw that there were yellow flags with Alejandro Bentos spun around. They wanted nothing to do with it, so a lot of cars ducked into the pits at that time, including our overall leader, Michael Evdoka, who pits and comes out. I think this was all encouraged by that spin in the final corner, and they said, nope, not going through that turn with that hazard, let's come down pit road, get the stop done with.
Guys, Rock Garcia out of the pits, coming out into traffic. That's Rens Brinkman. Comes out to Rens Brinkman there. Just got in front of him as Rock Garcia got out of the pit. Rens Brinkman takes over the lead, was in the pit 4 laps ago. Rock Garcia went in, come out, got a nice clean stop, but Rens Brinkman gets the advantage, guys.
So the car with a hole in the nose of its front there, that Mercedes, looks like he may pick up the win right now, although he has 2 cars behind him with 15 laps left to go. He's got to hold on to that position.
Well played, Rens Brinkman, well played.
Yeah, that's the example of nailing your pit strategy to a T. Yes, he wasn't expecting to get the damage, but because of that earlier pit stop, I think that helped him as well, having a bit more speed overall than our current leader, and that helped with the gap as more cars are getting ready to pit.
Yeah, including DP driver Sam Fitzpatrick. We really haven't gave a lot of camera time on today, despite the fact that not only has he been running up front in the race, he's been running up front in the points. He's second in the point centre in this race, as Sean pointed out, only 5 points behind Gabriel Roos, but Gabriel Roos isn't in this race today, so he won't get any points. So Fitzpatrick, if he keeps this run up like this, will take over the overall points lead. Or rather, the DP points lead. I guess you can't really have an overall champion.
The battle between Clint Shane Smith, Luis Gallen, and I'm sorry, who's that rep just behind him? David Clint Shane Smith. Sorry, guys, there.
Yeah, Carlo Labate leading, Clint Shane Smith in second, Luis Paulo Gallen, like you mentioned, Sean, all heating up. a lot due to the Gallon's mistake before the pits.
You hit one button, you get just all jacked up. Sorry, guys.
Ryan Sutton into the pits in GTE, Justin.
Yes, he's coming right on in, Sutton, as he's looking to get his fuel real quick. You can see him sitting there. Another GTE is right behind him. That is Daniel Kruzetsky. As you can see, he's going to be rolling out with a 10-1, a pretty quick stop, but we have seen some 9-second stops overall. Kruzetsky, the Canadian, also now getting ready to roll. Braden Swain also coming in after his trouble a few laps ago. So overall, Kruzetsky with the fastest pit stop overall in that cycle, 8.7 seconds.
Got the one down, many of these drivers will be pushing it on fumes at the end as T. Daniel Worthington also into the pits. A lot of GT3s now, GTEs picking the time to come down pit road.
Yeah, one of the drivers who has not come in quite yet is their leader for the GTEs in Pascal Krishner. You have to come in eventually, though. You have to think, because he's got to be running on fumes. There's about 13 gallons in the cars overall. So Carlos Vila is definitely not happy with his pit stop for whatever reason. But you have to consider, as Krishner's now coming in, what's going to happen with the gap overall.
Things are heating up for third place in DP. Looks like Clint Shane Smith is making a move on Carlo Labate as they work their way through the first sequence of corners as these two run side by side. Luis Paulo Gallon right behind them trying to find an opportunity. Now it almost got really ugly in the final turn. Gallon had to lock up his tyres and run almost off the course to make sure he didn't hit the cars ahead of him as they all stacked up. Meanwhile, this is all going on right behind as Gallon runs off, right behind our second place in DP. Sam Fitzpatrick has came out in second. He has about a second over this battle between Labate, Smith and Gallon.
Yeah, amazing. A lot going on the track here between the different classes, all bunched up together. You know, just behind them is the GT3 class. They just finished passing them a little while ago. And still got a good battle up front between Rance Brinkman and Rock Garcia, who now have David Weiss fighting to try and get something, salvage something in this race. He's sitting there, sixth in class, right where he started. Would like to pick up at least one position, but he's right in here with the leaders, mixing it up with the GT3 leaders.
Wow, Justin, I'm reading a race update from Andrew Brown here. A driver who was having a good day in GTE, had some misfortune coming down pit road. We got a big crash coming out of the final turn. No, we don't. Clint Smith and Eric Biggs hit each other and somehow kept it going straight. But look at this, it's still 3 wide, and this is fourth position. This is all for third. Smith walks Gallon to the inside of the circuit. Gallon takes fourth. Does he take third too? No, Labate comes back on, spins him. Gallon, Labate off, and Smith gets third back. Wow, that was something else. Let's watch that all again. Somehow they're all still running. So, coming out the final turn, a Ford GT spins coming out of the last turn, and that gets them all stacked up. They run 3 wide down into the first turn. They get through turn 1 clean. In turn 2, that's where we saw a couple of them make contact, and Smith snuck on by.
And that snuck him right up into a podium spot.
For now, Gallon, you'll see Gallon recovers nicely here. Even though he's turned sideways, he gets back out on course, and he's still within striking range of Smith. Labate fell back a bit while he was going through the grass. But Justin, have you been reading what Andrew Brown is saying there in the chat?
Yeah, Andrew Brown had some very bad luck when he had to come into the pits. Apparently he hit the pit wall and got a penalty for hitting the said wall. So he is still in the pits, in fact, right now from that situation. So one of the GTEs, the top runners, who was in about the top 5 before or he came in, now is going to lose a heck of a lot of time with a heck of a lot of damage. So Worst time possible with less than 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
Talking about losing a lot of time, all that excitement between Smith, Gallen and Labate has cost them a lot of time to Sam Fitzpatrick, who is now sitting safely second in class. You know what, we haven't gave a shout out to our class leaders so much today because there's been a lot of interest. Oh, and thought Gallen was going to take a look at third. Let's just read off our class leaders in each class. Give some camera time to Michael Evdoka, the number 14 in DP, Pascal Kirschner, the number 8 leading in GTE, and Renz Brookman, really the overall leader who's had the most interest in race of their class, down in GT3.
Yeah, and Renz may not have that spot for long because he is still being hunted, and I mean hunted, by Rock Garcia. I don't think Garcia is very happy about the pit decision he made, and he's trying to get it back. But man, Renz is making it so hard on him. The closing laps of this race, it's right there in front of him. He just can't seem to close up on him.
Yeah, I really don't think we've gave Pascal Kirschner his due today there, Justin. He's had a really good race up front.
Yes, he ran away right from the start. That's one of the main reasons, I think, because he's got a 10-second lead already on setting. It was about 8 seconds when he came out of the pits. So Kirschner has been running well, as there's apparently a car in the dirt to the left, but Kirschner right now has just been having essentially the perfect race. Nothing wrong really has happened with him, and he's just been able to set enough distance to make this nearly impossible. You have Wayne Brook right now, for example, 3 seconds back of Sutton. He has also had a good race, but he's going to have to fight off Miguel Vigo right now because they've been essentially battling for the top 3 Vigo has since the drop of the green flag. So we've had a lot of good runs and a lot of quiet battles, really.
That was Chris Burdick we saw off the side of a track there, and he had trouble earlier. Unfortunately, I'm not even sure if we'll be able to make it to the checkered flag now. Still keeping an eye. We've got 2 different battles for third going on. The one on your screen, and also third overall and in DP between Clint Smith and Luis Paulo Gallen. Keeping an eye on both of those.
Yeah, those 2 Australians aren't done with each other yet. They're going to keep battling to the end here with just over 6 minutes left to go. I don't think we have a decision in that battle yet.
I gotta confess, I didn't realise they were both fellow Australians. They weren't all named Bruce.
Oh. Well, hey, listen, they've really been hopping well along during this race, though. Just gotta say. That was bad, I know. I'm sorry, folks. Please forgive me.
Alright, here we go. Gallen looking down the inside. Oh boy, Smith is not going to yield it to him. Running out of time. Look at the clock in the top left corner. Gallen's only got 5 minutes left to work out how to do this.
That's only a couple of laps remaining, really, because it's lap 23 overall. We're about the window where it's at about 2 to go, 3 to go, essentially. So you can tell Gallen is feeling the pressure to make the pass to get on the podium here.
And he's probably thinking that would be a bit of redemption after the mistake he made earlier on in the race that cost him the time that has set him back here.
Boy, look at all. I love seeing all 3 classes on the track together right there.
Don't think the drivers do.
No, they don't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't like traffic. They'd probably like to enjoy running in open air for much of the race, really. It's just an absolutely tight battle with these DPs trying to get by some of the GTEs, in fact. And some of the same situations with the GT3s, because Rock Garcia lost a fair amount of time trying to get by Alejandro Bentos in those GT3s.
And I saw that he was saying something over the radio. I wonder
Yeah.
if he was letting Bentos know he didn't appreciate that.
Well, what he was trying to tell Bentos is like, come on, pass me, let's go. And I guess Bentos just wants to follow, and it's frustrating, Rock. It's kind of gotten into his head because right there, he runs up on him there, and, Rock's looking out of the corner of his eye there and sees his car running up on him. I mean, it's a bit of a nervous feeling. He shouldn't have to be worrying about that right now. He should be worrying about going and catching Renz. But again, Alejandro still remains in his mirror there. And obviously that is a faster car by nature. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating for the broadcaster, too, because it is a little scary right now. And you don't need these tense moments. There we go, side by side. He's racing with him here.
Justin, it's not often I see a Ferrari drive head-on into a wall and get away with it, but Baden Swain, running in about 7th in the GTE class, just did exactly that out of a final turn.
That was exactly what I was about to bring up, because he lost control out of the final corner just a few moments ago. Wiggled the car from going well to just getting snapped loose, really, turning left into the tire wall. And now he's coming around, as you can see with the GSRC replay as we get it timed up here. You can see he's just running to the course, really. Running well, then just breaks loose, loses it, jumps through the gravel, hits the tire wall, and gets back going. So I think he's really lucky that he's still on the course swing, because the Australian, in a lot of cases, might not be going in our situations, especially this late in the race.
Talking about it being late in the race, Michael Evdoka is coming across the start-finish line now with a little over 2 minutes left on the clock. It takes less than 2 minutes to do a lap around here, so that means we have 2 laps left to go. And that's interesting, Sean, that he'll cross the line with about 30 seconds left, because I think that means some of these drivers... Let's see, what lap is it going to go to? Evdoka is currently on lap number 25. Yeah, this is a 26-lap race. I've been looking at the results from other races today in the IMSA Sports Car Championship, and they've been 25 or 26 laps. I hope no drivers put in just enough fuel to make it the 25.
Boy, you better not. Yeah. Boy, Carlo Labate, is it possible that maybe he is disconnected? Trying to check up on him now. Looks like his car is off the track.
Well, his quality for internet, which is internet quality, is 33 out of 100 right now. So very likely he had a receive put level error. So that is basically the capper to a nightmare of a race for Labate if that's the case.
That's going to move Clint Shane Smith up to 3rd, and Gallen still chasing him.
Especially frustrating when it happens this late on in the race, and confirmation that that is exactly what happened. Meanwhile, Evdoka working his way up the hill into the final chicane, and then he'll take a right-hander, take a white flag, and start the final lap of today's race. I'll tell you what, Evdoka had a lot of pressure from Gallen earlier on, but after Gallen made his mistake, he's had a pretty calm race up there. He's going to be rewarded healthily from it.
And I think we just had a disqualification actually in the GTEs, as one of the cars struggling, Luis Mercado, is now gone.
Yeah, that'll happen if you go over 17 incident points, the cap. You get 1 incident point from running off, 2 from spinning around, 4 from contact with another car. If you tally 17, you disappear.
It looks like that white flag is out as well. You have to wonder how many you get for winning a race.
Yeah, and the good news for us broadcasters to keep track with it is it looks like Evdoka will win GT,
guys.
and then...
Yeah, GT3 being, oh man, Garcia getting the move. Oh boy, he gets on Brinkman and gets by Brinkman. Now Brinkman goes to the pit. He's pitting.
Oh, not enough fuel.
Oh, Sam.
Oh.
Sam, I think you hit the nail on the head, Sam.
That would explain why he was able to leapfrog his competitors in pit road.
Wow.
Quick stop.
Very good, Sam. He must have made gambling for one last lap, possibly. Certainly, some of us have tried that before. I'm not going to name any names. But
Someone who hasn't had to gamble. Meanwhile, Andrew Stokes also has come into the pits in the late stages. Someone who hasn't had to gamble is Michael Evdokin, the number 14 machine. We mentioned he is 4th in the point centre in this race. He's going to move up a bit. He hasn't taken a win yet this season until now. Evdoka wins in DP. GTE will be the next to cross the line. Justin.
Yes, and those GTEs coming across the line in a few moments right now. You can see Pascal Kirchner having a nearly perfect race, really. In open space, he has got a 12.9 second lead as he's going to look to take away that checker flag in a few moments. He is just hitting turn after turn perfectly as he's getting ready to approach the final corners. We'll see. You can see right now he has still got a lot of time, just has to focus on hitting the marks, not making a mistake, going through some of the S's. And now he's just a few turns away as he enters the NGK chicane, as he's going to enter the final corners right about here. So Kirchner right now just continuing to roll, lots of space though. So he's got a lot of time.
Oh, I'm sorry, Garcia. Right. I was wrong. Here comes Garcia, Sean.
Brock Garcia for the win in the GT3 class comes across the line. The big winner today in the official race here in the IMSA, the official IMSA series, Brock Garcia.
And Kirchner will cross the line, meanwhile, right on behind him, with a big gap of 12 seconds to win it. A great run overall from him. Brian Sutton comes away with second place. The Ohio driver has a good run overall. Wayne Burke will cross the line in third as the Aussie. Another good run for him. Miguel Vigo comes across overall in fourth.
And here's Renz Bookman. Director noticed this, that he was in the pits for an awfully long time. He really didn't need to be in there for more than a couple of seconds to just get topped off with fuel for another lap, but he took a long stop, and I'm not entirely sure why.
I actually think, and I don't know if this is right, I think he actually completed the race in the pit, because I think the leaders came by while he was pitting. Not sure. Not exactly sure.
Yeah, well, iRacing is scoring him in third in class behind Roque Garcia and Dion Fialo. So, Evdoka wins DP, Kirchner wins GTE, and Garcia wins GT3. And we'll get some drive interviews and the full race rundown when we come back here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Don't go away. Hello and welcome back to Nurburgring, where we just witnessed round 5 of the HPP Simulation Sportscar Challenge here. Let's have a look at the 4 race results, shall we? Starting with our DP class, the Corvettes. Race winner, Michael Avdoka for the first time this season, ahead of Sam Fitzpatrick. As we mentioned, good points day for the driver of the number 10. Third in class was Clint Shane Smith, who was able to hold off Luis Paulo Gallen. David Weiss and Justin Weaver were 5th and 6th in DP. Then we had 2 DPs that didn't finish. Carlo Labate, who lost the connection late on in the going, and Christopher Hendrich, who was one of 3 drivers, Justin, who was disqualified for going over the incident limit.
Yes, 3 drivers did go over that limit, the 17 incident point limit, but the cars who ran the best in the GTEs were Pascal Kirchner, for example, to come away with a victory in the GTEs, Brian Sutton, along with Wayne C. Burke, all of them finishing on the lead lap, in fact, a rarity with GTEs. Miguel Vigo comes away 4th, Daniel Kruzowski finishes in the top 5. Carlos Vila finishes 6th. Braden Swain, even with that front damage after hitting the tire wall in the final turn, a few minutes to go in the race, comes away with a decent finish. Dylan Ecclestone also coming away with a well-run finish. Mark Swindle, Matthew Forden, and Boban Matic followed them off. T. Darren Worthington, we didn't hear much from him. He had a fairly decent run overall. Well, Alejandro Bentos, he had, to put it this way, a roller coaster of a race, really. He comes away behind Worthington. Andrew Stokes finishes the last car 1 lap down. Eric Briggs, one of the cars disqualified, finishes 3 laps down. Brendan Felipe, he ended up starting from the pits, finishes 3 laps down as well. Andrew S. Brown, with the Bad Luck of the Day award, hit the pit wall and got a penalty because of it. He finished 3 laps down. Chris Braddock had a lot of bad luck as well. He finished 8 laps down. Luis Mercado had struggled from the beginning of the race with his setup as well, 8 laps down. Raymond Brown, 9 laps down. Robert Oberda finishes 21 laps down to finish off the GTEs. Sean?
All right, our GT3 class results. Rock Garcia, the big winner tonight. Congratulations to him. Dion Fialo ran a great race. Hangs in there to finish 2nd in class. Rans Breckman, just a tough break there. A miscalculation in fuel there, what we all suspect at the end. Winds up with a 3rd place finish. Battling so hard there for the win. And one lap short. Dexter Castro 4th. Jesse Stevens going to finish 5th. Luis Rodriguez 6th. Andy Gooderson going to finish 7th, and Paul Darling had that trouble very early, and Paul only completes 8 laps. He's going to finish 6th.
Alright, well, let's do some interviews here, starting with Sam Fitzpatrick. Sam, you've been in 4 of the 5 races in DP this season, 2 wins and now 2 2nd places. Did you think it would happen today after you qualified 7th?
Probably not. Qualifying, I'm never good in qualifying, as you've seen this season, but I wasn't really expecting too much, maybe aiming for a podium, but everything kind of just fell my way in the end in the race. Good strategy, I think. And yeah, really happy to get a 2nd place.
How did you do it? I've got to confess, we didn't see a whole lot of passing out there on track. We saw a lot of drivers gaining spots from mistakes and on pit strategy. How did you get up from 7th to 2nd?
Well, I made up a couple of places on the first lap, so I got to 5th there, and then I got into 4th on the 2nd lap, so I was already in quite a good position. I think Louis Gallon has a spin or something. I think I just got a shorter pit stop than a lot of other drivers, which allowed me to jump them in the pits. And yeah, managed to just stretch away at the end and claim 2nd place.
Sounds like a pretty good day, and that should move you up into the points lead ahead of Gabriel Roos here in the HPP Simulation Sportscar Challenge. Next week, we're at Lime Rock. Do you think your impressive streak of top 2 finishes will continue there?
Who knows on Lime Rock? It's going to be absolute carnage, I imagine, but should be good fun. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to having a race there.
All right, we're looking forward to it too. Well, thanks for coming to speak to us, Sam. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.
All right, we don't have any drivers coming to talk to us from GTE, Justin, but you got some interesting information from the driver who looked like it was going to win that class. So ask you about that, Justin, and then Sean will interview Dexter from GT3.
Yes, with the GT3s, you mentioned that Rens Broekman, the main reason he had to go into the pits, for those wondering, was partially because of that damage. That led to being 1 liter short because of the aerodynamic damage. So Broekman finished 3rd overall with some bad luck. Someone who kind of benefited from that was Dexter Castro, who's with us right now, finishing 4th overall on the grid. Dexter, how do you feel about how you ran in today's race?
Well, actually, first off, I didn't actually wind up benefiting because I got punted by a GTE on the last lap, and so I wound up getting lapped by the DP leader, so I couldn't pass Rens even though he had to come into the pits. So, a little disappointment at the end, but 4th is really where I was supposed to finish without anything else coming up. And I think Rens, he never actually pulled back out of the pits. I think he had a chance to get back out of the pits in front of me anyway, if he had just taken a splash of fuel. But I mean, it was a decent race. It was a very strong or an unusually strong GT3 field, and I was just sort of cruising at wherever my pace would take me. This is really a poor track for me, so I was just focusing on being consistent, and it worked out to a decent finish. Did well against the people who have been competing for the full season in this broadcast championship, and I suspect it's also not the worst day points wise for the official series either.
I was just going to ask about what happened with the incident. I think it was just with the phrasing that was, but you mentioned with the points lead, the top two drivers in the class, CM Skinner and Yavi Utrers, were not in today's race, meaning you will be able to move into the points lead. You're 25 points back. It's 28 points for a 4th place finish, so you do have that coming along. But we were talking before the race, you were not a major fan of Nurburgring, but how did you manage to conquer it with the strategy and so forth?
Well, I'd hardly say I managed to conquer it. To be fair, I think most of the positions were more or less handed to me. I was just out there. Usually, whenever I'm at one of my poor tracks like here or Motegi or Imola, I just have to focus on trying to be consistent. And I think most of my laps were within a few tenths of each other. They just weren't very fast. So it was just a matter of plugging along, waiting for others to make mistakes, and just hoping to take home some good points.
And you did take away some good points. Now, what do you hope to see from Lime Rock next week? Because that is going to be essentially almost the exact opposite of what we saw this week.
Yeah, it's just about the exact opposite, and I can't be happier to to go to Lime Rock after this, because I definitely I'm more comfortable or more at home on the faster corners rather than the slow technical sections. And the traffic has always been a strong point for me, I've always felt. So hopefully I can do well there, and who knows with attrition. I mean, I feel like I've been doing a good job at staying out of trouble so far this season, knock on wood, but maybe I could even potentially steal a very nice spot, or who knows, even a win, just with the attrition there.
We'll have to see, that's for sure. Congratulations on the 4th place finish, Dexter. And you enjoy your night. Dexter Castro with a 4th place finish in the GT3s.
Well, certainly a very interesting race out there today. Saw some 3-wide action and some spins. Dexter was just talking to us, Sean, about how technical some of the portions of this circuit were. You got to watch all that racing going on in GT3, which really didn't end until the last lap. How did you feel about this race?
I thought it was exciting. I mean, the technical tracks will generally bring some exciting racing, and we've got plenty of that today. I really thought that all the work the GT3s had to do with the GTE class. I thought that was interesting. Didn't expect that, but we talked about early the fact that the strength of field in the GT3s was so high. There were obviously some very, very skilled drivers in that division, and it showed. They worked through that traffic pretty well. We didn't see a lot of carnage. We saw a lot of hard racing, some beating and banging, but overall, we had a pretty great race here at Nürburgring.
We didn't see a lot of carnage, but Justin, I've got to confess, listening to the drivers, it doesn't seem they're as optimistic that we'll see a clean race at Lime Rock.
Yeah, some drivers not feeling as optimistic for next week because, well, it is like Dexter said, a nearly opposite track to what we're seeing this week. It's going to fall more along the lines of Sonoma and Mosport, really, I think. And both of those circuits saw some wild racing, that's for sure, and a lot of various incidents on the course. So I can tell why they're nervous about that, but at the same time, I think some drivers might be thinking, let's get the heck out of here and go to Lime Rock and try and make a good run. But we'll have to see when everything comes together next Friday.
We will have to see, and you'll be able to see it all here live on the Global Sim Racing channel at the same time next week, 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time, so be sure to tune in and then watch that as we hit the halfway point of a 2017 HPP Simulation Sportscar Challenge. Before we leave tonight, we would like to thank a few people, including HPP Simulation and Mark Hargett for putting on this championship, as well as the IMSA community for coming here tonight and putting on a great show. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware that you see in our broadcasts, and they are listed on your screen. Additional thanks to Eric at Coleman Case and Lalonde, who provide us with our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Justin, Amjad and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out you can check us out on social media, on Twitter at GSR Channel, or Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. Our next race is at Lime Rock Park, which will be, as we mentioned, 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time next Friday here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We also have our upcoming races for our other series listed on the screen, so be sure to check those out, mark them down on your calendar, and don't miss another second of exciting racing action. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.